This is Siberia, one of the coldest places on Earth, where winter temperatures plummet to a bone-chilling minus 70 degrees Celsius. Here, in 1942, Soviet archaeologists made a remarkable discovery near the remote village of Umuyaktak, the remains of a Stone Age culture that flourished 4,500 years ago. When scientists finally sequenced DNA from these ancient bones 7 decades later, they uncovered something extraordinary. The descendants of these forgotten people still walk among us, 8,000 kilometers away in modern-day Finland. This is no chance connection. Finnish, Estonian, and Hungarian have long puzzled linguists, standing apart from all other European languages, like linguistic islands in a sea of Indo-European tongues. Their origins remained a mystery for centuries, until now. Join us as we piece together a remarkable story, powered by cutting-edge ancient DNA analysis and archaeological breakthroughs. We'll trace how distinct populations converged in Ice Age Siberia to birth the ancestors of the Uralic peoples. We'll follow their epic journey westward along hidden pathways through primeval forests, witness their encounters with the speakers of a language ancestral to Sanskrit, and discover how these one-time pagan nomads transformed into the defenders of Christian Europe. This is the story of Europe's second-largest language family. This is the story of the Uralic peoples. The Uralic language family is a tapestry of 30 languages woven across northern and central Europe and Russia. While Hungarian, Finnish, and Estonian may be its most recognized members, each of these languages shares a common ancestor, a mother tongue that linguists call Proto-Uralic. For generations, scholars believed this ancient language emerged near the Ural Mountains, and hence the name Uralic. What makes these languages unique? Picture them as linguistic beads on a string, where words grow by threading together smaller pieces, a feature called agglutination. They follow strict rules of vowel harmony, where vowels within a word must match, like notes in a musical chord. Their grammar resembles a Rubik's Cube of cases, where words twist and turn to express their precise role in a sentence. And unlike many European languages, they lack grammatical gender, no masculine or feminine forms to memorize. These distinctive traits echo the linguistic patterns found across Northern Asia and Siberia, leading some linguists to suspect that Proto-Uralic's true homeland lay far to the east of the Urals. Modern genetics has transformed this suspicion into near certainty. When scientists unraveled the genetic code of today's Uralic speakers, they discovered a revealing pattern, a shared Siberian genetic signature, ranging from a whisper in Estonian DNA to a shout in the Naganasan people. Even more telling was the Y-chromosome story, a genetic marker passed down from father to son like a surname written in DNA. 2/3 of Finnish men carry the Y haplogroup N, a genetic signature that points unmistakably to East Asian origins. Yet, every rule has its exceptions. Modern Hungarians stand apart, showing neither significant Siberian ancestry nor the telltale haplogroup N. A mystery will unravel later in our journey. But first, let's step back into the frozen world of Ice Age Siberia, where the genetic legacy of the Uralic peoples first took shape. Picture a world locked in ice. Massive glaciers, 3 kilometers high, dominate northern Europe and North America. South of these ice sheets stretches the Mammoth Steppe, an endless grassland that spans Eurasia. Eastern Siberia stands as a polar desert, where only the hardiest mosses and shrubs cling to life in the windswept, rocky terrain. Yet here, at a place we now call Yana, north of the Arctic Circle, the first humans dared to make their home. These pioneers were the ancient North Eurasians, a people who had recently branched off from West Eurasian populations, carrying with them a touch of East Asian ancestry. They were master hunters who tracked the titans of the Ice Age: reindeer, steppe bison, woolly rhinoceros, and the legendary woolly mammoth, across the frozen landscape. As the Ice Age reached its bitter peak, a new chapter began. Ancient northern East Asians pushed northward, gradually absorbing these original settlers. From this fusion emerged the ancient Paleo-Siberians, who would come to dominate the Siberian wilderness. Then, 12,000 years ago, the world began to thaw. The Mammoth Steppe surrendered to a rising tide of evergreen forest, the taiga. These hardy conifers evolved to shed snow from their sloping branches, created what would become Earth's largest biome, blanketing 1/8 of all land. Though winters remained fierce, summer brought a gentle respite with mild, humid days. At the taiga's southern frontier lies Lake Baikal, Earth's deepest lake. Here, 9,000 years ago, two ancient northern East Asian lineages converged to create the Kitoi culture along the western shore. These skilled fisherfolk, crafting tools from stone and bone, carried a genetic marker that would echo through history: Y-chromosome haplogroup N. 6,000 years ago, these Kitoi people ventured north, meeting the Paleo-Siberian hunters of the Sayalak-Belkachi culture. Their union, a 50-50 blend of East Asian and Paleo-Siberian ancestry, would forge the genetic signature that defines Uralic speakers to this day. Their tongue was Proto-Uralic, a language we glimpsed through roughly 200 reconstructed words, a lexicon rich in terms for forest life, especially fish and trees, painting a portrait of a people intimately bound to the taiga. A single word for metal hints at a limited technological awareness. The distinctive Uralic genetic signature first appears in the ancient DNA of the Umuyaktak culture 4,500 years ago. These people left behind not only distinctive pottery, but intriguingly sophisticated bone plate armor. In the centuries that followed, they would carry their culture and genes 2,000 kilometers southwest toward the Altai and Sayan mountains, a region that held one of Earth's rare deposits of tin, the crucial ingredient needed to forge a revolutionary new material: bronze. Climate can be a silent architect of human destiny. Around 2200 BCE, the world experienced the 4.2 kiloyear event, a devastating century of global drought and cooling that sent shockwaves through ancient civilizations. From Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley, societies crumbled under environmental pressure. Yet, our Uralic ancestors, still hunters and fishers of the forest, proved remarkably resilient. This was an era of technological revolution. Bronze weapons cropped up, axes, spearheads, and blade hilts across the forests bordering the Eurasian steppe, from the Altai Mountains westward. These were crafted using an ingenious technique called lost wax casting. Archaeologists call this unprecedented spread of technology and trade the Seima Turbino phenomenon, a lightning-fast explosion of innovation that would reshape Eurasia. The impact was profound and far-reaching. In the East, Seima Turbino metallurgical techniques introduced bronze technology to northern Chinese cultures. Westward, the technology traveled along the Taiga's river highways, crossing the Urals and reaching the Baltic Sea. At the core of Seima Turbino were nomadic warriors and master metalworkers, many bearing the distinctive Siberian Proto-Uralic ancestry and Y haplogroup N, with some individuals showing ancestry from western steppe herders. To the south, the Indo-European steppe cultures were struggling. Overgrazing and drought had pushed these herding and farming societies to the brink. In the river valleys south of the Urals, they formed the Sintashta culture, fortified settlements at war with each other and pioneers of the war chariot. When the Uralic speakers moved westward, they encountered the Sintashta, and a complex relationship emerged. Trade and cultural exchange left linguistic fingerprints. Proto-Indo-Iranian words for gold, copper, honey, 100, and 1000 found their way into Finno-Ugric languages. The number of Uralic miners, boatmen, and warriors, still wearing their distinctive bone armor, began to grow in the forest zones adjacent to the steppe. They settled in lands previously occupied by the Indo-European Abashevo culture. The linguistic record tells a tense story. Loan words like slave and poison hint at the conflict of this turbulent time. Late Abashevo burials speak of intensifying warfare, a sign of the brutal struggles for survival. As quickly as it had begun, the Seima Turbino phenomenon flickered out. In just 2 centuries, this remarkable period of technological and cultural exchange came to an end, leaving behind a transformed landscape and the nascent identity of the Uralic peoples. In a mere 3 centuries, the Uralic languages performed a remarkable feat of geographic conquest, spreading from the heart of Siberia to the vast European plain. These were still people of the forest and river, hunters and fishers who had not yet embraced agriculture. As the climate softened, they began to explore and settle the sparse northern landscapes. The genetic story is one of gradual transformation. East of the Urals, Siberian ancestry remained dominant, but in the Volga valleys, a profound mixing was underway. The Finno-Permian peoples here became a melting pot, absorbing both the local Indo-European corded ware culture and indigenous hunter-gatherer populations. The Volga Plain offered a radically different environment from the austere taiga. Here, 4 distinct seasons painted the landscape: cool, wet winters giving way to warm, rainy summers. Deciduous forests flourished, their trees shedding leaves in autumn, while fertile farmlands promised abundance. Some Finno-Volgaic groups learned agriculture and animal husbandry from their Indo-European neighbors, a cultural exchange preserved in loanwords like pig, calf, and udder. At the opposite end of the Uralic world, the Samoyedic peoples maintained a more traditional lifestyle. Having missed the westward migration, their languages bore little Indo-European influence. Around the start of the Common Era, northern Samoyedic tribes pioneered something remarkable: reindeer herding. These animals became more than mere prey. They provided meat, fur, milk, and transportation. To this day, reindeer remain the only deer species successfully semi-domesticated by humans. In the western reaches, the ancestors of the Sami people carved out a homeland in what is now Finland. They navigated a landscape of thousands of lakes, marshy plains, and coniferous forests teeming with moose, brown bears, and wolves. The Roman historian Tacitus would later describe them as the Feni, a primitive yet noble tribe. Gradually, waves of Finnic-speaking farmers from the Baltic pushed the Sami northward. In the long, dark, snow-laden Arctic winters, these resilient people independently developed reindeer herding, a skill of survival born from necessity. Their language absorbed significant influences from the region's native hunter-gatherer inhabitants, whose tongue linguists call Paleo-Laplandic. Far to the south, Byzantine Greek chronicles of the time began to speak of a new force emerging on the East European steppe. These mountain nomads were thundering towards Europe, harbingers of yet another chapter in the Uralic saga. The Europeans called them Ungri. They called themselves Magyar. The Hungarian story begins with the Ugric people who ventured west of the Urals after learning cattle herding from Iranian neighbors. Legend speaks of 7 tribes migrating to the borders of the Khazar Khaganate on the steppe, where they lived among Turkic peoples like the Bulgars and Onugurs, absorbing their customs and words. When the mighty Frankish Empire fractured, these tribes seized their moment and swept into the Carpathian Basin, the westernmost reach of the Eurasian steppe, a vast grassland embraced by mountain ranges. Under the leadership of Arpad, the Magyar tribes transformed into Europe's most feared raiders. Their mounted archers struck terror from Constantinople to the Atlantic, until the fateful Battle of Lechfeld, where German forces executed their commanders and shattered their dominance. In the year 1000, a new chapter began as Hungary embraced Christianity under King Stephen I. The Hungarian elite of this era carried a fascinating genetic signature. 37% bore the ancient Y haplogroup N and showed mixed East-West Eurasian ancestry, while their subjects were primarily local Slavic peasants who had adopted the Hungarian language and culture. As the kingdom of Kievan Rus expanded, many Volga Finnic peoples, such as the Merians, Muromians, and Meschera, began adopting the East Slavic language and Christianity. Yet most Uralic peoples clung to their ancient beliefs, a rich spiritual world where spirits inhabited animals and objects, where shamans like the Sami Noidi, Finnish Tietäjä, and Hungarian Taltos bridged the mortal and spirit realms. Their creation myth, shared with Siberians and Native Americans, told of a bird diving into primeval waters to retrieve Earth itself. They honored gods of sky, thunder, and water, alongside forest and household spirits, with offerings of food, drink, and precious goods. The pagan peoples of the Baltic Sea soon drew the attention of Rome. The Northern Crusades brought Estonian lands under Danish and Teutonic control, while Sweden conquered and Christianized the Finns. Hungary, now firmly part of Western Christendom, began reimagining its past. Medieval chronicles like the Gesta Hungarorum claimed descent from the Huns, casting their invasion as rightful reclamation of the empire of Attila the Hun. In 1235, a remarkable journey unfolded. Friar Julian, a Hungarian monk, set out to find the Magyars who still remained in the east. Against all odds, he found them, and despite 5 centuries of separation, they could still understand each other. But when he returned 2 years later, he witnessed widespread devastation, a preview of the Mongol storm that would soon break upon Hungary. The 1241 Battle of Mohi saw the Hungarian army crushed and its population decimated by the Mongols. Yet from these ashes, Hungary rebuilt. Stone castles rose across the land, and settlers invited from all across Europe brought new vigor. The 14th century ushered in an age of Gothic cathedrals and universities, with Hungarian gold florins circulating through European markets. Under Matthias Corvinus, Hungary embraced the Renaissance, fostering art and scholarship while building one of Europe's first standing armies, a force that would prove useful in the long resistance against the expanding Ottoman Empire. But fate struck again at Mohacs in 1526. More than half the Hungarian army, including their king, fell to the Ottoman forces. The kingdom was carved between the Ottoman Empire and Habsburg Austria. Through centuries of triumph and catastrophe, through waves of assimilation and cultural change, the Hungarian people gradually lost their ancient Uralic genetic heritage. Yet their language endured, the only unbroken thread connecting them to a distant past. Though Hungary would never regain its former glory, a new power was stirring in the east, having cast off the Mongol yoke. This rising force would soon reshape the destiny of all Uralic peoples. In 1480, a decisive moment echoed across the Russian steppes. Moscow, mightiest of the Russian principalities, threw off 2 centuries of Turco-Mongol dominion by refusing to pay tribute. Its rulers claimed the title of Tsar, Caesar, positioning themselves as heirs to Roman imperial glory. their conquest of the Khanate of Sibir unlocked the vast resources east of the Urals, forever changing the balance of power in Northern Eurasia. As the 17th century waned, the map of Europe was being redrawn. The Ottomans retreated from Vienna's walls, their power in Hungary replaced by Austrian might. Sweden still held sway over Estonia and Finland, but a resurgent Russia had other plans. The Great Northern War that followed transformed Russia into an empire, wresting Estonia, Livonia, and Karelia from Swedish control. Within a century, Finland too would fall under Russian dominion. Yet, Russian rule brought unexpected cultural flowering. The Finnish language found new freedom of expression as scholars ventured into the countryside collecting ancient folk tales and songs. These were woven into the Kalevala, Finland's national epic, a work whose heroes and mythic power would later inspire J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. The exotic grammar and sounds of Finnish became the blueprint for Quenya, the high tongue of Tolkien's immortal elves. Meanwhile, the Finnish scholar Matthias Kastren ventured deep into Siberia, laying the cornerstone of modern Uralic linguistics through his groundbreaking fieldwork. Hungary's path proved turbulent. After an unsuccessful bid for independence from Austria, a remarkable compromise created the dual monarchy of Austria-Hungary, one crown, two governments. But in 1914, an unscheduled leadership change in this complex nation triggered a cascade of alliances that plunged Europe into the Great War. Amid the conflict, revolution transformed Russia into the Soviet Union, creating a window of opportunity that Finland and Estonia seized to declare independence. When peace finally came, Hungary paid a devastating price, losing nearly 3/4 of its territory and 1/3 of its ethnic population to neighboring states. The Second World War brought new troubles. The Soviet Union absorbed Estonia and launched the Winter War against Finland. The Finns fought with determination, their soldiers on skis outmaneuvering Soviet tanks in deep snow, their snipers becoming the stuff of legend. Though Finland maintained its independence, it came at a heavy cost. When the Iron Curtain descended across Europe, Estonia vanished behind the Soviet frontier, while Hungary fell under communist control, a puppet state in Moscow's new empire. The Soviet era cast long shadows over its ethnic minorities. Policies of collectivization tore communities apart. Deportations scattered peoples across vast distances, and Russification threatened ancient languages. But as the Soviet economy faltered and reforms stumbled, nationalist movements gained strength. Hungary threw off communist rule in 1989, and Estonia reclaimed its independence in 1991. By the turn of the century, both nations had joined Finland in the European Union, a remarkable journey from the forests of Siberia to the heart of modern Europe. Yet today, many Uralic languages teeter on the brink. The Samoyedic languages, save for Nenets, face critical endangerment. The Nenets, still following their reindeer across 3 autonomous okrugs in Russia, maintain their traditions with precarious freedom. Among the Ugric branch, Khanty and Mansi speakers dwindle as younger generations turn to Russian and Tatar. Their linguistic cousin, Hungarian, however, thrives, 13 million speakers strong. It represents 60% of all Uralic speakers, its voice carried by communities in Hungary and neighboring countries like Romania. The Permian peoples, Komi, Permiak, and Udmurt, maintain autonomous regions within Russia, but struggle against cultural erosion. The Udmurts interestingly stand out for an unexpected trait, one of the highest frequencies of red hair in the world. The Volga Finnic peoples face similar challenges, though the Mari have kept alive their ancient pagan traditions, a spiritual resilience that runs like an underground river through many Uralic cultures. Among the Baltic Finns, Finnish and Estonian stand as pillars of national identity. Finnish, remarkably conservative in its evolution, offers our clearest window into Proto-Uralic. Yet smaller languages in this group fade year by year. In 2013, the death of Livonian's last native speaker silenced forever the ancient tongue from the shores of Latvia. The Sami people, spread across 4 nations, speak 10 distinct languages as different from each other as Spanish is from French. Northern Sami, with 80% of all Sami speakers, carries the greatest hope for survival, but numbers alone don't tell the whole story. There is a word in the Finnish language that captures the essence of these people's journey through time. Sisu, an unbreakable determination that rises in the face of impossible odds. A similar spirit runs through all the Uralic peoples and lives on in those fighting to preserve their heritage today. In doing so, they honor those ancient ancestors who first ventured into the frozen north, carrying with them the seeds of languages that would one day spread from Siberia to the shores of the Baltic Sea. Creating this journey through the story of the Uralic peoples has been an incredible experience. If you have enjoyed exploring these ancient migrations, linguistic mysteries, and remarkable cultures, I'd love to share more fascinating histories with you. Subscribe to Brief Histories for more deep dives into the lesser-known stories that shaped our world. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter of history.